The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's July the 17th, 2025. First of all, thanks to the sponsors. As always, consider me biased. Twice biased because I own them. Markets. Gold did well when there was a rumor that Powell was gonna basically be canned by Trump. I assume that was not an honest mistake kind of rumor. I mean, just look at what gold did. I think this is what happened in the market. So imagine, you get together, put on fat leverage and start to put out that rumor, and then shortly after it, there's news via, I don't know if it was directly via Trump, or basically the rumor gets squashed. So imagine you, again, I mean, knows it's coming. So I don't know how it happens, but let's say you, whatever, give some money or tip off, let's say, or I would assume that real, let's say, news outlet might want to at least fact check some, the sources, or at least that it's credible sources. So who knows who actually was the source. It was like you put out a rumor, let's say you take fat downward leverage, rumor, boom, down here, maybe you used, I don't know, 50x leverage, and then you refute the rumor. Or, I mean, even if you don't do it, somebody who's seen the rumor, in this case, let's say Trump refutes the rumor, boom, all the way back up. I mean, imagine if you, again, ran like 50 to 100x leverage, put out the rumor, bam, maybe you know exactly when the rumor is going to be refuted, or that it will be refuted soon, and then you basically take profits, then leverage the other way. So it's just a intraday dip, but who knows actually, how much somebody might have made intraday. And I guess that's also maybe, I mean, that's probably happened throughout, human history, but I wonder just how perverted, in a sense, the markets have become in this, incredibly financialized world with crypto. I mean, basically where stuff that doesn't have value have high prices, and yeah, I mean, the stock market overall is very, I saw somewhere where it's like, I mean, it's in the ballpark of the most overvalued US stock markets in history. So it's like, how easy is it to make money when you're, yeah, I mean, when there's no bargains out there for the generalist funds or whatever. And I think that's also, the rise of crypto, basically, where, okay, if stock prices, I mean, are not expected to move that much higher because they're so highly valued, and it's not clear where, the added growth could come from. So why not, speculate and move the prices in stuff where there is no PE, there are no fundamentals. People are just guessing, basically, and it's always up, right? Especially Bitcoin. So I just, well, it's just, a bit sad to see that this stuff goes on, but there's always going to be people trying to game the system one way or another. I think this is an actually interesting tweet. I think it not proves a point. Well, perhaps it proves a point, but I think it's an interesting subject because usually you see, I mean, if I wanted to look right, I would be bearish every single junior. Since 2011, like 80% of the time, the junior sector has been in a bear market, and 90% plus of juniors have nothing or will not find anything. So I mean, if you want a rigged bet in your favor in terms of frequency, that would be to be bearish juniors basically at all times. I mean, sometimes during the bull runs, you're obviously gonna look wrong on everyone, but 80% of the time you're gonna look right on average, because the sector has basically been in bear markets or bear legs 80% of the time, I would say, since 2011 at least. So it's backward looking though. But then also over a long enough timeline, 90% of companies will never amount to anything. So that's a pretty good bet. 90% of the time in the long run, 90% of cases will basically go to zero or get diluted to close to zero. 80% of the time, the sector is basically taking a beating in the meantime. And you often see, I mean, a lot of people take pride in being bearish certain stocks, so certain junior miners, etc., and then, proclaiming how smart they are when this super hard sector and really poor financial markets for juniors when they're down. And what's interesting about this, I think, is that, most of them is like, I don't think most of them make money. They get off on looking smart. I think some of the accounts that, do a lot of chest beating and, circle jerking, etc., usually on the negative side. I don't think they're, if I had to guess based on what I see, I don't think they're good investors. I mean, in my opinion, the only real money is on the long side. I mean, pretty much by definition, especially during cheap sector environment where the risk reward is have been getting increasingly asymmetrical. Of course, it's been decreasing a bit since a lot of juniors have gone up in price without that much changing in terms of fundamentals. I mean, a lot of gold juniors are higher now than when gold hit 3,500. A lot of silver juniors are up a lot relative to where they were when silver hit like 35 or 36. So not that much has changed. I mean, if you think for an exploration silver junior, for example, even for a producer, I mean, it's not that big of a difference. And it doesn't say that silver can't go down to $35 tomorrow, for example. So it makes no real sense from an efficient pricing standpoint, but it shows that sentiment runs the show, because some silver juniors are up a lot compared to where they were trading at $35 silver, even though not much has changed. But it's sentiment that has changed. This is the thing we've been waiting for forever. Everybody wants to buy when stuff is going up in price. That's just how it is. Stuff look cheap when they're going up in price, which is kind of hilarious. But this is what I've been saying for the last few years, at least. And it was just a matter of time. It was a when and not an if story. That's why I've never been nervous, because this is how markets always function, especially a cyclical sector. So now that it's happening, it's not like, I mean, what is there to really celebrate that the thing that's forever happened again? You need to be smart, or do you feel smart for realizing that? No, it's pretty common sense. It's obvious to anybody who's looked at the name is in the, the word is in the name, cyclical sector. Anyway, so this case, person X, for example, is bullish on 4 equally weighted stocks with returns of minus 50%, minus 50%, minus 50%, and the fourth one is a success story. The person holds on to that position, it goes up 1,000%. This is obviously just an example. I couldn't, put in a, 20, 30 names. It wouldn't fit really in the post. And then we have person Y, who was bearish on the same stocks. Who was right? This doesn't show time frame, but let's say over 3 years or whatever. And it doesn't matter. The minus 50% could have happened in one day, and the 1,000% could have happened over, let's say, 2 years or 3 years or whatever. Who was quote right? The one who was bearish and had a hit rate of 75%, and or the person that was long all 4 stocks and made money, even while being wrong on 75% of cases. If this person shorted these, he would be right 75% of the cases, 3 out of 4, he would still lose a lot of money. So again, who was right? This is what I keep saying about either you focus on making money or you focus on looking right. And this is, I think, very relevant to the coming Troll Patrol segment. But think about this. This person, if you look at hit rate, he looks dumb. If you look at his portfolio, he made money. And some people would say, well, he was wrong. He was, he was bad. He had a low hit rate. That does not change the fact that this person made money, and this person who, quote, looked right in 3 out of 4 cases would have lost money betting against him. I think this actually, yeah, really good example. And that's why you can kind of tell when people get up other people's asses, ridiculing them or whatever about stories that didn't work out. Because it's obviously in that case, I mean, if you're in a high risk high reward sector, or especially when you're dealing with high risk high reward cases, the very notion is that it's high risk / high reward. High risk means that most will not pan out. So if you see somebody who's like lambasting someone else, basically, calling them an idiot or whatever. I mean, we see that happen all the time. In every single stock that goes down, everybody was an idiot who was long it. But that's what the high risk stands for. And I keep, I've said a lot that you have to let also the reward side pay for your risk profile. Anyway, but that's a different subject. But yeah, so it's like, if you think like that, it just means that you have no idea what a high risk, high reward business is. If you have you have a 10 name portfolio, let's say 3 stories work out, he's wrong on 7 out of 10. A lot of people probably ridicule that person. But if he's like, let's say, 2 out of the stories plus 500%, 1 plus 1,000%, he would be making money. While he's getting ridiculed because he's so he's lost money on so many stories. And it's like in Rackla, for example. I mean, I the last few days, last week at least, I probably made not probably, I mostly posted in Rackla, and that's not because it's my biggest position. It's because it's right now one of the most interesting cases. I mean, intellectually one of the most interesting cases. It's terrifyingly exciting, where you don't know if this is going to be a success or a failure. And we get some new information. Like today, Rackla put out some visuals. Here you can see, I mean, beautiful view. I hope it's a big success so I can, maybe get a chance to actually go up there. Take some rock chip samples. But you can see it's like highly fractured, even up to the mountain ridge. I mean, it's hard to see all over here, but if it's as fractured here. But here you can see basically that there's chopped up pieces of rock, huge brownish reddish stains. I mean, basically gossiness, rusty color. So there's metals, let's say, rusting here, which is a good sign. If there were no sulfites, etc., no sulfites, which typically comes with which comes with mineralizing fluids, or hydrothermal fluids, which are the very fluids that metals and potentially gold, for example, travels in. So this is basically saying that there's been a lot of fluids going through this rock. Here you have some, this is kind of an interesting, it's like a, I don't know what it is, like almost like a cross or something of veins. And you see this, reddish, brownish rusty color as well. Here you have, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is indeed the ridge top here. Again, it's absolutely beautiful view. But you can see how much rust there is all over this ridge line and downslope. And it's like the whole mountain, I mean, it's not like super steep, because you have a person standing here. He's not using rock climbing equipment, not this person at least, at this side of the ridge. But you see, it's like there's rust all over the place. It's like the rock is absolutely chopped up all over the place as well, which again should be a good sign that there's indeed a lot of, let's say, fractures, you know, veins chopping up the rock, so it easily breaks, or more easily breaks, because again it's being cut through with veins, etc. So it's being chopped up into pieces from veining. That's my guess. That's why you have so much fractured rock here, and that's what you want in a carapace. You want it brittle, so the fluids can punch through it and create a bunch of small, you know, fractures with veins, etc. So this is pretty much what you would want to see for a reduced intrusion related gold system, especially if you're in the carapace, because it needs to be brittle, and I don't think you get this amount of chopped up rock if it wasn't brittle. Here you have Simon Ridgeway, and behind him we have some, I mean, this looks like vein fracture, chopped up rocks, rusty color, you know. So anyway, so I was commenting to, yeah, so somebody posted that link, and I just, you know, wrote a lot of rust, looks heavily fractured all the way up to the ridge, because we know how fractured it looks down near the whatever the base, and you, I mean, as far as you can see here, basically there's a bunch of rubble. And then this guy comes in, haven't seen you pump this hard since Novo days. So it's like, wow, okay. And of course that's the going back to this thing here, and also why there's like a what, at least 10-to-1 bash/praise ratio. Do you think I've seen this guy in any of the success stories I'm in, or have ever been in, for example? No. And then some other guys like and I just, you know, made fun of him. It's like, I think the Snowline pump got close. Now, obviously, Snowline is one of the biggest successes in this sector, and it recently hit a new all-time high. And then it's like, you mean there's not a lot of rust, and it does not look fractured all the way to the ridge? Again, if I'm pumping, it's like, okay, so what does that mean? If this is pumping, that means obviously my bias overrides objective truth, or whatever you would like to call it. And he didn't respond to that. Then some other guy comes in, never seen this guy around either. Don't recall you pumping Snowline, as I think you sold way too early on that one, if you were in it at all. If you were in it at all. I agree, you are pumping this hard as possible, kinda like you did on Condor, and look how that worked out. As people know, I've been very open about losing money in Condor and Novo. That is not, that is like, I mean, Novo is still, they're not a banner sponsor. I have that banner up anyway, just to prove a point. I am not, I don't pretend like every story I'm in and I'm bullish on, especially in not high risk, high reward stories, like all will play out. But this just kind of goes to show that either they don't get this or they don't want to get this. But in this case, of course, they're biased in, who knows, they might be wanting to get in cheaper, they might not, you know, as often is the case. I mean, if you see a stock that's gone up a lot and you didn't own it, I mean, you're gonna think that everybody who's bullish on it and is celebrating whatever. It's not like I'm celebrating. I mean, my average in Rackla is not far off from the current price, because I like the story right now. I wish I you know, followed the story closer since they found the grad target. I have had a small position for a while, but it's just recently I increased my stake. But it's like, yeah. Again, it's like, and no, and Novo. That's what I mean. Novo and the conglomerate. When that was a flagship project, I mean that's got to be what, 2018. Yeah, 2018, 19 maybe. So it's like, you know, 5-6 years ago. That's again what you get thrown in. The mistakes, you'll hear about them, because that's obviously the you know, chink in the armor, let's say. And then it's like Condor again. Do you hear? I hear, you know, about this and I never hear anybody talk about any one of the ones that actually have been doing really well. And of course you never factor in whatever position size. With that said, I was all in Novo when it went down 30% in one day, and I had a very big position, especially for a pre-discovery play in Condor. So I went overboard as well in those. But yeah, so it's like, and we're gonna get to the what just puts this over the top in terms of irony. It was like, if you were even in it at all. So it's like, yeah, again, it's like, brings up Condor, says if you were even in it at all. So obviously somebody who has no idea what I have been in or not been in, but brings up the one, let's say, loser he can remember. It's like, you were bullish on this one as well and that didn't play out. Again, he's probably such a bad investor, probably shouldn't be in this space even, because he has no idea what a high risk, high reward space is, or what it's about. It's high risk, high reward. Condor was high risk. It was a pre-discovery play. I thought they had way above average chance of success for a pre-drill play. What is that the case? Who knows? We know that they didn't hit what we hoped they hit. So it was a failed maiden drill program. But I would take that bet. I would bet on Condor every day if I could go back and do it again, because I think that was a good bet. I regret that I think I had too much in it though. Actually, I think I got a bit greedy there. But it's like, to me, typically pumping it, then it's like, you know, more pump and dump kind of thing, where you're not taking the risk yourself. For example, Condor was my biggest loser, I think, monetary wise. So I mean, in that case, I pump myself in a sense, because I don't say anything I don't, you know, pretty much never say anything I don't believe. That's what I try to. Anyway, so, and then I, you know, was a bit cheeky and posted this picture, me at the literal valley outcrop discovery, holding a, you know, piece of outcrop. Which, but do you think these people are like, oh, I'm gonna give you shit for something when you mention a story that, in this case, by the way, pumping Snowline. And I was in before he probably could even spell Snowline. But, you know, then he's like, you were probably not in it. So basically he has absolutely no idea. And still, you know, that's not enough. I mean, this is a douchebag. This is what a douchebag is. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But that doesn't stop you from, whatever, bashing someone, basically. So he's a douchebag. This guy is also a douchebag. Because I even, for fun, because if this was pumping, that's, you know, surprise to me. So I put it in ChatGTP. Does this ridge look rusted and fractured? Yes, the ridge in this photo does appear rusted and fractured. Rusted, yada yada. And then I was like, okay, I asked ChatGTP specifically, is it over promotions to say there's lots of rust in that picture and that rock looks heavily fractured? No, it's not over promotion to say there is, quote, lots of rust and that rocks look heavily fractured in the picture, as long as you're describing what's clearly visible in the photo. So basically, I got two people coming in accusing me for pumping, and then obviously, you know, why not, since they're, probably really bad, bitter investors slash losers, throwing out again the failed stories for good measure, right? And this is what they, you know, accuse me of pumping. And what's even better, then I just checked this rice guy. It took me what? I went back a few posts and found this beauty a few days ago. This is it, boys. This is in the Tectonic Metals. And again, to be, you know, objective, I put his post in ChatGTP and asked, is this post about a stock over promotional? Yes, that post could definitely be considered over promotional, especially in a financial investment forum context. Here's why. Hyped language, phrases like "this is it, boys," implied inevitability, saying strong quality. So basically, this guy might have taken a pumping course or something. This is probably a more pumpy post than I've posted in maybe years. It's not like I mean, I'm for sure could be, what was I going to say? Have I pumped? Of course I've pumped. I'm very much, you know, more mellow. And again, this is the bias of it all. It's like, this guy is obviously, this is one of the most pumpy posts I've seen. It took me, I scrolled for like 5 seconds to find this in his posting history. This is more pumpy. I mean, I got cleared by ChatGTP. It said I was describing what was clearly visible, aka no pump. This guy is accusing me of pumping, and he's, I mean, this is up there. 16 likes. And basically ChatGTP went to town on him and explained why this is definitely over promotional. So this is the kind of, you know, shit you deal with if, because these are, I mean, I have no idea who this guy is. Not the other guy either, but so this is, I mean, he's obviously a pumper. He's obviously a hypocritical pumper as well, which makes it a lot worse. That's what I tried not to do. That's why I don't go accusing people, except a guy like this, for pumping. Because I'm gonna get carried away in you know, stories as well. Because I'm long. I'm long every stock I, you know, talk about. I'm thinking about the upside potential. Then you have to, you know, make forward-looking statements. But, you know, yeah, I don't remember the last time I did such a post, and this took me, you know, 5 seconds to find in his history. That's what really pisses me off, because obviously this guy has no integrity at all, and he's going around basically calling other people pumpers. Maybe not surprisingly, he didn't even respond to any of this. Anyway, back to Rackla. So, they also put out a news release recently, and that's what a lot of the talk has been about. And this is why I think it's such an interesting story. And also, I mean, if you have a stock that's done well, and again, I'm not sitting on fat profits in Rackla, I can tell you that. If you have a stock that's done well, that's going to bring a lot of envy. That's going to bring a lot of emotion. I actually think this is a very balanced, I mean, surprisingly balanced, given the let's say, you know, the share price development, the type of the target, and all that. I mean, there's a lot of, as you can see, there's a lot of discussion, scientific discussion and whatnot. So I'm actually surprised that there's not even more trolls. I mean, there's some people come in, but that's typically the rule. I mean, if if you're long a stock, anything you say possibly about it, I mean, in this guy's, where is he? This Rice guy, for example, if you asked him if he's a pumper, he would probably say no. When obviously this is an incredibly pumpy post. But that's how it is. It's like, he's long Talon. And he's obviously going to say anything he can, I was going to say, to get people to buy right now. Buckle up, shit's about to get real. This is it, boys. Push excitement, FOMO, fear missing out. Highly emotive and hype driven. So he wants the stock to go up right now, and there's not that much. I mean, again, this is mostly emotional FOMO making. But that's how it is. That's how humans work. If they're long a stock, if a human is long a stock, he wants it to go up. He's excited about it. I'm not saying Tectonic Metals is a sell or anything like that. It might be a very cheap stock. But this is, again, this is very pumpy. But to him, it's probably, well, I don't know if he has that kind of self-reflection. But when you're long something and excited about it, you don't feel like you're, he might not even feel like he's a pumper. Or he is, in fact, a pumper and just want somebody to pay him off. Who knows? I'm not gonna, I don't know. But the point is, he has obviously no problem writing something like this, but if somebody even, I mean, in my case, I posted something, I made 2 comments that were factually true, and he basically called me a pumper. Why? Because he's pumping in this post way harder than I've posted, any post I've posted in the Rackla forum. Because he might not be long Rackla. He might have missed out. He might want to get in cheaper. You know, there's many differences. I mean, envy, jealousy, seeing that go up, and at the time maybe Talon wasn't doing too well, yada yada yada. But that's how it is. That's human nature for you. That's why you have to really have thick skin, because there's a bunch of hypocritical idiots like this. And most people are bitter, especially bad investors. Because, I mean, the good investors I know, I've never seen, at least with their own aliases, I've never seen them troll. I mean, the ones I actually think are good. There are some who, you know, might be up a year or two, etc. And whatever is, you know, playing around with a little bit of money. But the ones I actually respect and think are really good, they don't have time to troll. They're focused on winning. They're focused on their own stories. They don't have time to obsess about other people's picks from up to, let's say, you know, 5-6 years ago and stuff. Anyway, I just want to get that out of my system, because again, I really dislike. I really dislike that stuff. And of course, nobody even, I mean, as you could expect, I mean, it's not like they're, oh yeah, you know, I was wrong or whatever. No, they're just douchebags who have no problem trying to tear people down while they're hypocrites themselves and probably pump more than I do, obviously. Anyway, Rackla reports drilling has commenced at Byte, provides initial core observations. So this is how this hole was drilled. I mean, this is where it gets really interesting with Rackla, and that's why I'm so fascinated about this story right now, because this is like, every news release brings something out of the puzzle, and I enjoy puzzle. I enjoy the theory crafting. And right now I couldn't tell you if Rackla is going to be a success or not. I'm long, so I'm betting that it has a fair chance of becoming a success. But here is the channel sample, 40 meter tested, 38 meter ran 1.8 grams per ton, which is really, really good for a reduced intrusion related gold system. And here you have the first hole. here you have core they're showing from the first hole. So I'm just assuming, I mean, first of all, I mean, I'm glad they're updating. So, I mean, that makes it more fun instead of waiting for just the assays. We can make some kind of bets. I mean, you can read the forum. There's a ton of discussion about this, that this is sericite alteration, yada yada. This looks like a fat vein. They mentioned average vein density 5 to 10 meters per, 5 to 10 veins per meter. That's better. I'm pretty sure that's better than the first, let's say, up to 5 holes at Snowline, at Valley at least. So 5 to 10 meter average is good. I mean, there's, Craig Hart saying, you need 3 to 4 to 5 veins typically to get 1 gram per ton. So if you average 5 to 10, that's all. I mean, 1 grammer is certainly not out of the question just based on vein density. Then we have snow lines like super dense vein density core, which ran like 20 to 30 veins per meter and ran 3 to 4 grams per ton. This is not 20 to 30 veins, this is 5 to 10. I was hoping actually for a bit higher vein density, but it's also the first hole. But I think that I'm not 100% sure where the now it's a battle between sellers and buyers. I'm not 100% sure where, what the selling is about. But it's also a very loaded case in a sense, because, I mean, it was vein density that became kind of the guideline with Snowline Gold. I mean, when they released that core, that hole with, which was absolutely riddled with veins, like 20 to 30 veins per meter, and Craig Hart, said something like, he has a quote in it where it's like, I've seen a lot of systems like this, but I've never seen as much veining as this. That really got the market excited, because that was like, okay, this is something else, this is exceptional, etc. This is not, in terms of vein density, this is not one of those core valley, super high grade core type vein densities. This is 5 to 10. This is good. There's a hole, one of the earlier holes that I would say average about 5 to 10 veins per meter in Snowline. That ran like 2 grams per ton over 200 meters or something like that. I think the whole hole was like 400 meters, but the bottom half especially barely got up to, I think, 5 to 10 meters veins per meter. And that still ran 2 grams per ton over 200 meters. So if we just go by vein density, 5 to 10 veins per meter is good. That should be enough for, I mean, if Valley is an analog, that should be enough for potentially 1+ gram per ton. That is that is good for an outcropping reduced intrusion related gold system, especially at the first hole. I mean, if 208 meters. The core shows a consistent set of veining. So theoretically on paper, if we use Valley as an analog, 208 meters, 5 to 10 veins per meter. If that runs 1 gram per ton, that's a 208 gram meter hole. If the core would average 1 gram per ton, which is not out of the question if we're talking, if our reference point is what Snowline basically saw when they had 5 to 10 veins per meter. But the thing I think that spooked, well, I think there's twofold. I think as always, kinda everybody was hoping for a lot of people, I guess, were hoping for a very high grade core vein density type hole on the very first hole. Okay, this is not 20 to 30 veins per meter, so it is not like where Snowline is 4 grams per ton over 200-300 meters. Okay, so that's lower than white, blue sky basically. That is, let's say, this entire thing is like 4 grams per ton, for example. Then we have the fact that there's no mention of visible gold. That I think might be, and that's actually kind of that's a surprise to me as well, because I was expecting visible gold. Valley has quite a bit visible gold. Sure, it doesn't mean that. I mean, the flakes. I don't know how closely they've looked at the core. I mean, they have a very short drill season, obviously, and maybe they, basically rush the core away. They want to put out the visuals as quickly as possible, and haven't gone over these 200 meters with a hand lens, for example, to find if there's small specks of visible gold. But I guess there's at least not any larger specks that the naked eye can see. That I think they would have put that in the news release. They probably would have. Somebody would probably have seen that, but we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know how. They don't mention how closely they've gone through the core, etc., etc. But the non-mention of visible gold, I think that's what spooked some people. But then, it's like people have been discussing, which is very interesting in a sense that, well, it's weathered bedrock, and that's not too easy to see visible gold, in outcrop, for example. A clear-cut core with, fresh rock and it's polished and all that, that's obviously should be easier. But the thing is that even the 92, like people have been discussing, we don't have it here, but the 92 grams per ton grab sample, for example, there was no mention of visible gold there either. I don't think they mentioned anything about visible gold in any sample. And that I think, I mean, yes, it's rock chip samples and all that, but I think if this system had a lot of visible gold, I think one would have seen it by now at least. So then the question becomes like, okay, is there no visible gold, or quite a lot of visible gold like Snowland because there is no gold? Well, that's I just made a rhetorical question in the forum. It's like, if none of the samples, if none of the good grade samples show obvious visible gold, should we be expecting obvious visible gold for something to have grade? I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question in the sense that, I mean, what's the saying, whatever, gold is where you find it, for example. So if you have a bunch of samples and you have a channel sample and you don't see any visible gold, it's like, okay, Valley had quite a bit of visible gold, but if there's gold, if you find these rock chip samples grading up to 92 and you don't see any visible gold, the question is then, or isn't it valid to say that maybe, just maybe, this is a gold-rich system without a lot of visible gold, like most gold systems? And actually, if you look up Fort Knox and Dublin Gulch, especially, or at least according to ChatGTP, that I think, where is that? Here's what ChatGTP says about Fort Knox. Visible gold is rare. You might see it under a microscope with reflected light, but you generally won't see nuggets or even specks with the naked eye in hand sample or core. So it sounds like Fort Knox, which is what, 11 million ounces, almost had no visible gold, not visible to the naked eye, and you needed a microscope. That did not mean it didn't have 11 million ounces of gold. So why I think this is kind of interesting, and of course I want this to be true, is that as Snowline is kind of unique with, let's say, the grade and vein density, whatever, there might be something weird or unique with grad, because we know there's gold here. We know this channel sample ran 38 meters of 1.8 grams per ton. What are the odds that you put a drill hole right under where the bedrock is grading 1.8 grams per ton and there's no gold? and none of the samples they found had any visible gold either. So in my opinion, and this is not a, it shouldn't stretch the imagination that much, especially that we know that Fort Knox doesn't have almost any visible gold to the naked eye, at least. So I would suggest that it appears that the gold that is here is not in visible gold form. It's not in clear specks of gold. It's whatever, inside something, maybe an alloy or something. Because nobody can dispute the fact that these were the gold samples they've taken from the tailors. Nobody can dispute that this channel sample in the bedrock ran 1.8 grams per ton. So it's obviously gold bearing. There's gold here. But none has been seen, no visible gold has been seen. So where the market kind of got spooked by the lack of visible gold, aka some like, oh crap, because the idea is of course that, this is another valley type discovery or better. Or, bigger at least, let's say. That's the, potential price given what we can see, how big this ridge is. But that's my point here, that I think this sets up a very interesting situation. It's like I was discussing, I've been discussing Rackla with another user in the forum, and he says, he said something like, which I think is spot on, that it seems that, for a multi-bagger you have to have, well, most people have to be wrong and you're right, which, I mean, I guess is kind of common sense. But if you get, why I'm saying that is, why that is interesting right now is, in my opinion, that expectations have gone lower from some people. I mean, I'm assuming, unless it's like, who is it, or which company, Radius, I think, owns share. That's also Simon Ridgeway company. They own shares of Rackla. So some speculate that they are selling because they need money to drill. It might be the case, might not be the case, who knows. But somebody has been selling, and obviously somebody has been buying as well. But at least the price has come down from the recent highs. So there's been some more, let's say, more motivated sellers than motivated buyers. And I think that, again, can be, you have two things, not 20 to 30 veins per meter, and no reported visible gold. So the share price is at 68 million, down from, I think it was 83. So the price of the company has gone down a bit. So if the case is intact, the risk reward has gone up. There's more upside if what everyone hopes is there from 68 than from 83, obviously. But this puts us in an interesting position, in my opinion, in the sense that it seems expectations have gone lower. And this has rattled and spooked some people that there's no visible gold. And I would be, obviously, I mean, the whole thing I come back to, again, is that this run 1.8 grams per ton over 38 meters, and you have a bunch of, you have up to 92%, up to 92 grams per ton in rock chip sample. You have this whole Taylor's line that averages, what was it, like 1. I don't know, some gram, and this core here average like, I don't know, 3 grams per ton or something. So appears to be well mineralized. So then I come back to it. If there's good gold grades here without visible gold, should we expect visible gold to get for us to see good gold grades? No, right? Because it's already showing that there's, good gold grades without visible gold. So, and who, I mean, if a first channel sample that cuts 1.8 grams per ton, that's I mean, almost twice the grade of Fort Knox. So the interesting, I'm talking a long time here, but what is interesting is that expectations have kind of gone down. sentiment has soured a bit. And I wonder if that might be unwarranted in a sense. You know, that, I mean, I'm leaning towards that this case is fully intact. And maybe, just maybe, as some have speculated, that there's quite a bit of disseminated gold as well. And, you know, not visible to the naked eye, for example. So there's a scenario here, obviously, where all of this is well mineralized and it's going to show up in the assays. And all hell, you know, could break loose. And there's also a scenario where, hey, with the, you know, let's say it's 5 to 10 meter vein density and there's no visible gold, and for some reason this channel sample was lucky, and these talus samples and chip samples, they were whatever, they were not representing what was actually in the bedrock. That's also a scenario, right? We know what the price is, 68 million CAD. So I mean, for, let's say, people pumping, what is priced in out of the, let's say, blue sky success scenario at 68 million? I wouldn't say it's that much. So in my book, I'm getting pretty good odds. Again, I talked about this earlier, where it's like, if you assume 30 million dilution from here, let's put it up at 100 million market cap. If this ends up being, let's say, you know, a meaningful portion of this running, let's say 1.8 gram per ton, I mean, that would be a massive success, obviously. In that case, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna go, you know, too wild numbers, because we know it can also go keep going at depth. It could go up to whatever, you know, they have a theoretical strike length of 350, 1.3 kilometers. I think they've tailor sampled all the way here, but I think they've expanded they've seen veins farther out. Or maybe if this is part of the is this part of the expanded? I mean, when they stepped out like 300 meters and we're seeing veins. Well, yeah, I think that was in the last news release, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know actually if this is included. I mean, this is like, what, this is 300, maybe it's actually included. So this would be like, what, 850 meters? I'm just gonna wing it here. 150, 300, 450. No, I don't think this is part of the expanded. And all the way down here, actually, you see rusty colors. And so, I mean, I guess, okay, yeah, I guess this is the interesting thing. It's like, this might be absolutely huge. And this hole might run, despite the lack of visible gold, because maybe, just maybe, this is a system that doesn't have much visible gold, but still has, as we can see, apparently sheds quite a bit of gold and shows 1.8 grams per ton in a channel sample. That's why this is exciting. Because expectations have gone down, and maybe, again, you never know. I mean, this hole might run nothing, or they might hit, you know, 200 meters at whatever, 1.5 grams per ton or 1.8 grams per ton, etc. I mean, then, you know, the show is certainly on, and by the time they're done with this field season, they would probably have tested a lot of this, and they would have done a lot of channel samples along here and down from it. So, I mean, in my book, this is a play that is very much in place, and I think, yeah, I mean, again, it's uncomfortable even talking about it, because I'm afraid people will think that I consider this to be a, you know, no-brainer 10-bagger, if you know what I mean. I'm just saying, and like whatever, Snowline and Condor, I didn't know Snowline was going to turn out to be this good. I didn't know Condor was going to miss. I'm making bets with the information I have available, with the price I have available. Right now, that's 68 million CAD for minus 9-10 million in cash for everything in this picture and, you know, around it and yada 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 and this and that. So I don't know. Please, nobody come back. Like, if this fails, don't come back and say, you know, I guarantee this was gonna be a big fat success and we're, you know, gonna have 2 valleys or something. And if it becomes a success, and if it becomes a big fat success, I cannot say I told you so, because I didn't know. If I knew this was gonna, if I knew this was gonna be a big fat success, I would have. Well, you can just guess how much, you know, I would have. I would have sold everything basically to just get in if I knew this was a guaranteed 10-bagger, for example. I don't know that. I'm just saying based on, and I'm biased, of course, because I want this to be a success. And I've you know, bought a bit more last 2 days as well, more yesterday than today, or 2 days ago, I guess. So again, my average is not that far off from where the market price is right now. But yeah, I think there's. I think yeah. What can I say? Again, it's like it's hard. You get colored by these, you know, bashers. That's like you almost, you know, you almost put on muscle or nozzle or whatever it's called on yourself, instead of saying, you know, what you actually think, because you know how much shit you get every time even a high risk high reward story doesn't pan out, and, you know, the bashers pretend like it wasn't a high risk story, a high risk high reward story. This is far from a guarantee. I'm saying I'm betting because I think there is a chance this could be really big, and I don't think this core disproves that. I don't think this first hole disproves that. It might again simply be the case that for whatever reason this is similar to Fort Knox, in the sense that this reduced intrusion related gold system simply doesn't, the gold simply doesn't come up in like obvious flakes of visible gold. But it does not mean that this can't host a lot of gold. Yeah, I'm gonna try to run through the and of course, I mean, it's not like it's a guarantee, but I mean, I'm assuming you're posting pictures like this because you like what they're showing. I mean, it's not like I don't think they're posting pictures to bash their own company, if you know what I mean. Because this is, yeah, again, it's, and you can put this in ChatGTP and ask it. I mean, it's basically suggesting, well, it's a good sign that there appears to be a lot of hydrothermal fluids that gone through this, and that's where the rustiness comes from, because the fluids contain metals, etc. That, and, you know, yeah, metals that rust. Obviously, gold doesn't rust, but the fluids, it contrarily has stuff that can rust. So wherever these fluids would have reached, there's potential that it brought gold with it, or it's strictly contained in the actual veins. But that's also created from a fluid. So, but anyway, and then you have this kind of, you know, intense fracturing, which is suggestive that something cut this rock up a lot. And that would, I guess, be veins, etc., from hydrothermal fluids. Anyway, Valkea Resources, this is one like really, I mean, it's up only 5.1%. It was up, I think it was up 40% earlier. This was actually, yeah, 89,000. So I mean, there was obviously profit taking, etc. But this has been a wild one post closing. I think there was only a few investors that took down most of the financing. So I'm assuming a lot of people who, I mean, personally, I think this is kind of an not an exact example, but keep in mind that this is a project. I thought I got in pre-IPO, I think, or maybe it was IPO at 40 cents. So I've been mostly, and I don't think I've sold a share from that placement, but I've been mostly in the red on Valkea. I was able, thankfully, to get a small addition in the latest placement. If I knew these guys were going to come in and take, and a few people actually took the whole placement, I would have bought more. I would participate more. You know, if I found something that I can even sell. But anyway, so this, the project has not changed, right? I mean, it's the same the same rocks and all that. They haven't been able yet to do any more work really. But you have a stock that traded as low as 19.5 cents. Same projects. Now it recently hit a high of 83 cents and closed at 62. How do you explain that from a rational, where it's like, oh, the price to intrinsic value? No, this is just an example, in my opinion, how absolutely Looney Tunes this sector is, especially when it comes to financing, because the whole market knew they needed to raise money. So if you want to get into this story, which is pretty liquid, with a big sum of money, how do you do that? If you want to get in with some decent money, you'll get the stock up 20, 30, 40, 50% maybe. So you, let's say, are in no rush to bid it up because you hope to get into a placement. Okay? And the market knew a placement was coming. So nobody has any real incentive. I mean, people who fear private placements, they'll sell because they know, quote, that a financing is always bad. Okay? So they're not buying. And the people that really like this story and want to get in with a big position have to wait for a financing. And obviously they want the price to be as low as possible. So it gets, let's say, it detaches from actual, let's say, project value. It just gets bled dry. And then a financing happens, which is supposedly to be so bad, and then the financing closes and the stock goes up like, well, what was the price of the financing? $25, okay, 25. So yeah, the financing proved to be basically the bottom, and then it has kind of ramped back up. Does this graph reflect the value of the properties, how the intrinsic value of the, let's say, the projects have changed? Absolutely not. I mean, it's like the wild, wild west. One time it's valued at 58 cents, and then it's 19.5 without anything big really having happened. But that's the markets for you. And that's like in First Nordic's case, is like, why on earth was somebody selling? Didn't care what gold price was doing. Didn't care about any of the news. And then voila, okay, financing gets announced. And what's going to happen after that? I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as tight of a financing as Valkea was able to pull off. And there might be some, warrant flippers and stuff like that. But I think it's another example of, like, you have a pretty much unchanged story fundamentally. But when you include, financings and incentives for big money, etc. So going into a financing, you want it low, low, low. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that the guys who got into the placement were suppressing this. I'm just saying that the market, everybody knew Valkea didn't have money to start anything, basically. So that was very telegraphed, in a sense, that they would need to raise money. So the whole market was kind of front running a placement. Then they take a placement, only a few people take most of it, and all of a sudden everybody that liked Valkea but was waiting for the financing to get in, they probably didn't get full allocation. And afterwards you see the real appetite for, let's say, Valkea. And I mean, at a point in time today, there was no ask up to 119, I think. Which is kind of incredible. It's like there was no sell order between... Well, there was no sell orders. There were only buy orders up to like 80, and the first sell was at 119. Obviously, people came back in and realized, and you have some ask now. Anyway, yeah, and I discussed Valkea recently. I mean, this is one of those things where, again, it's like, as you probably know by now, I'm not out there promoting every whatever stock I'm up in, or going back and showing, it's like, look how bullish I was at, you know, on Goliath at 30 cents, or you know, made videos when Snowline was 50 cents and stuff like that. I'm not stroking my ego in that way, and I guess that maybe that punishes me sometimes, because you have trolls coming in who basically proclaim that I'm a pumper and I probably never even owned any Snowline, because I'm never highlighting, you know, the success stories. But I try not to do that, because that's just, again, patting myself on the back. I mean, a single case is like the goal, the long-term goal, the focus is to have a good long-term portfolio returns. And you're gonna suffer through a lot of failures, and hopefully a few maybe big winners. But I can't point to any single stock I made money in and say, yeah, I knew I was gonna make money on that, and the stocks that I lost money on, I wouldn't be in them if I knew I was gonna lose money on them. Nobody knows. I'm focused on making money. I'm not focused on looking right. I'd rather be this guy than that guy. I'd rather be making money while apparently looking dumb, instead of the person losing money while maybe looking smart. So yeah, maybe, you know, I should be out there promoting and say, you know, look how, but I don't want to do that. It's like, you know, important thing is to get a whatever good strategy. That's like, we're not going to win on every case, absolutely not if they're high risk cases. We want a good process, a good strategy that over the long term will make more money in the stories that, well, we make money in, than we lose in the one we lose money in. That's it. I don't get any money for pointing out something, you know, whatever, that you bought some stock at early days. But if somebody starts to just shit talk me like this, you know, I might notify them that, you know, it's not like I'm losing money in every, not every stock I own is Condor or Novo, you know. I mean, the hodl folio, for example, that's, you know, on the website. I mean, I don't update it that often, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know the hodl folios has beaten the index, and of course they're updated every day. But I think those have been, you know, pretty, on average, pretty good bets, etc. But I don't need to tell the world that every day, just so I make sure I don't look stupid or something. Anyway, Magna Mining announces H2 2025 guidance. Quarterly ore sales from 700 copper zone expected to be between 80,000 and 92. Anyway, here you have Q3. Yeah, similar tons, Expected higher grades, expected more copper equivalent pounds, realized price, I mean, say the same, cost per equivalent pound, per equivalent pound. So basically, I mean, ASIC, what's the copper price at? Is it 6 or 5? 5.5. Where is it here? Excuse me. Well, okay, that was CAD. So I guess, yeah, ASIC. So ASIC is still under. I mean, it's trending down, but it's still under. The guidance is still under the copper price. The stock sold off a bit, but it's like the company plans to make important investment in McCready West during the second half of 2025, including upgrading mobile, yada yada. Contract mining was mobilized, etc., etc. So it's like, you know me, I don't second guess anything that the Magna team does. I couldn't hope to put better people in charge. Whatever decisions they make, I assume that's the best decision anybody could have made. That's why it's, you know, has been a chronic hodl story. Because I'm not worried about negative surprises. Can stuff happen? Of course, stuff can happen. But the base case is that these guys identify problems, identify challenges, deal with them. So if they're investing in the mine, which means higher cost now for lower cost later, making the mine more efficient. So I think at least, let's say, McCready West, I mean, I think it's kind of in the similar position as Integra, where both have guided for higher costs than obviously people would have liked, because everybody wants lower costs, right? Want fat margins today. But so I think the cases for both are kind of the same. The market is typically driven on the short term and the now. If McCready West by I mean, I put up analyst consensus of the, you know, revenue growth curve expected for Magna, and that's just, you know, especially next year, it just takes off, and 2027 is even higher. And who knows, there might be changes to that, and we know like the longer term plan is like, you know, 3 to 5 mines up in production, and it's absolutely not pricing that in, or I was going to say it's not pricing in a future where that's going to happen over the next whatever 1 to 5 years, let's say. So I think it's similar situation as Integra. The stock gets, quote, punished because higher costs now, and thus people who look beyond the now and the next 3 months, let's say, the ones who are looking at 2026 plus, get I think a pretty good, a very interesting value proposition, let's say. If you know what I mean. It was like you exchange, okay, I'm buying the future Magna and the future Integra at today's price, which is pricing in the current version of both companies, let's say. So if the future version of both companies happen, this price I paid for the current version is gonna look cheap, aka I should be up. And it's obviously you're buying not only the next year, you're buying all every single future year for the current price. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'm not making investment recommendations here, but it's like, yeah, you know, if we're talking time arbitrage or boring arbitrage, whatever, looking farther ahead in the market, yeah, I think both are kind of maybe poster childs for that. That does not mean none of them can go lower or stuff can happen. Doesn't mean that. But nobody has a crystal ball. Brian Lenners on the Homerun Resources Silicon challenging China's solar glass dome. I haven't actually watched this yet, but I am. I mean, I'm invested in Homerun, and that's one, along with First Nordic, who's actually been weighing down the portfolio. the hodl folio, I don't know what it's, or the average of the hodl folios might be up, let's say 20% or something this year. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people who have beat 20% this year. I mean, it's not actually that impressive. I don't think, given how, the average shitco has probably gone up, I don't know, 100% this year or something. But again, I'm focused on long term. I deploy a strategy that is proven to work over the long term, and that's not based off of being long every, let's say, shitco at the perfect time and then getting out when sentiment is popped and reality sets in, for example. No, I have a strategy where I buy stuff I think is cheap, and over time my portfolio is going to revalue higher. And Homerun is, I guess, close to, and that has a real troll problem. I think like 70% of the posts or something are from people I don't think even own the stock. Anyway, we can zoom out here. Am I looking smart in Homerun? Well, it topped in when most juniors, I would say, probably around the time they made a bottom, Homerun made a top. So it's at 52-week lows, basically around 52-week lows. And that together with, let's say, First Nordic, which, I mean, it's not for 52-week lows, but it's gone down since February. And these are, First Nordic is a very large position. Homerun is a pretty large position. So I have one large and one very large position that are close to, well, one is multi-month low and the other is 52-week lows. So in my thinking, it's like, okay, I mean, hey, portfolio is up 20%. I think every single stock is still, I'm thinking of the hodl folios now. Every single stock I own in those, or my family members, etc., own in those, I think they're all cheap. I like the risk reward in Homerun at this price. I absolutely, I don't understand everything about Homerun, to be honest. I just think that I think they have a shot of, making some good value out of their high purity silica, and this is not pricing in that much. That's it. I think if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna lose money, and this will not be the bottom. But I also think this is a credible shot of becoming something, and given how many initiatives they have, etc. I think Blue Sky I would put up as very high. I'm not absolutely not sure what chance that has, but my point is like, hey, okay, portfolio is or the hodl folios, I would say, are probably lagging the average average junior miner this year. I haven't looked. I mean, I have no idea knowing, but I would guess so. But that's explained by two of my highest conviction gold story is at multi-month lows, and this is one which is at 52-week lows. So then, of course, okay, they're up, let's say 20%. What happens when they start pitching in? And maybe they are the cheapest of them all. So they are gonna be, instead of they're dragging the portfolio now, maybe they will be two of the stocks that are outperforming the other stocks, if you know what I mean. That's the thing. It's like I don't know when these are exactly gonna go up. And sometimes you have stories that are not going up, they're going down instead, and other stuff is going up, and then you have stuff going down, and the stuff that was going down is going up. Or who knows, maybe we get into, the sentiment continues to get better, so everything goes up, and some of these stories, let's say, maybe goes up more than the other ones because they have indeed lagged and might be, you know, much cheaper than they should be and cheaper than some other stories. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. Again, I don't know which story I'm gonna make money on or lose money on. I'm just making bets. Tectonic Metals, it's like a post here. Tech post share consolidation is like night and day. I mean, now they had a shit ton of stock out, and I guess it's here where they actually did a rollback. Oh, excuse me, because you can see the volumes basically collapsed, and this has been quite perky. I mean, I think it was up today. Yeah, I think it started up at like 8-10% plus or something. Then some selling came in, but it's like last month. I mean, good trajectory, but I'm not celebrating anything here. Well, first of all, I'm not sure I'm even up. I mean, yeah, I don't know when I started buying in, but let's see the 5-year chart. I have no idea if I'm up or down on Tectonic. I've been in a few placements. I have quite a bit of warrants as well, because I have been in several placements. It's, you know, in a sense, it's nice to see higher prices and all that recently. And I mean, it's doubled over the last 3 months. But to me, this is kind of still noise. I mean, the flat project. I mean, the idea is that hopefully there's one or more large reduced intrusion related gold deposits there that are of economic quality and size. We don't know that yet. The story is still out. If blue sky happens, well, this could go up 10-20x or more, right? If they don't find anything of economic value, this is gonna look high. And the jury is still out. So I mean, until further notice, this is not that big of a position. So I mean, the current thesis, I might change it, but it's like, you know, ride along and see what happens. If they put out some really good holes and it's like, oh, you know, hey, now it, you know, the game is really on. It looks like, you know, the flat can deliver a significant deposit. I mean, then the game is basically starting. And I don't have that big of a position where I desperately need to take money off the table yet. Has anything really changed with share price going higher? No, I mean, we haven't had any results from this year yet. They launched the largest drill program to date with 3 rigs. So I mean, I can't tell anyone how to exactly play any of these. I mean, if you bought it really cheap and your idea was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna trade the hype in going into assay results, for example. Yeah, I mean, if that's the strategy, you'll be taking profits before assays. If you have more of a, hey, I'm doing a more high risk, high reward, longer term strategy, then you obviously need some of these to pay for all of these that you pay through. So like, it all depends on what your strategy is. I guess I'm saying is like, I'm interested to see what they have. I don't have any firm belief now, one way or the other, about, you know, should one buy or should one sell. I mean, maybe at, I mean, if it's from June, I mean, it's gone up without fundamentally anything that we know of have gone better. I mean, I might wait for, let's say, assays, for example, in that case. Because I typically don't like to pay up in price unless, I mean, the risk reward by definition is worse if price only has gone up and not value. And then people could say, well, sentiment is getting better, so there's value in that. And yes, I guess in a sense where it's like, if they hit a hole that grades X over Y meters, today it might actually go up more than it would a year ago with the same hole from a lower market cap. So yeah, speculation-wise, sure, one could make that argument, but that's not really, you know, I mean, I was going to say scientific. And I think it's so hard. I think it's so hard to sell and know whatever timing and all that. My simple bet is like, hey, this could be, let's say, something big, and if it becomes something big, it's probably gonna be trading in a few years, a few multiples of this. Otherwise, I'm gonna take a loss. That's it. Silver VIPR. I have a bit of silver VIPR. It's, I mean, basically. Oh, excuse me. It's basically. I think both Tash and Adam from First Nordic are in this. Nice to see Eric Sprott. I don't think he had a position before. Yeah, opening balance. Yeah, so did they have 50? I thought it was done at 30. I think they're doing a few placements. But anyway, this is also one of those cases like actually a solid project in Mexico. I mean, Mexico obviously, you know, had problems. Wasn't really run that well, to be honest. Ran out of cash. They hit the low of 16.5. There might be a rollback in here as well, actually. So let's put it like this. Yeah, okay, yeah. Not a pretty picture. Project hasn't changed that much last few years, but absolutely got killed. People, you know, involved with First Nordic basically took over, because this is, you know, one of the Valkea group companies. Previous management of Barsele as well. Barsele Minerals, I should say. So they took over, cleaned up the share structure, getting, you know, the world's largest silver bull as a shareholder. Yeah, it's not a big position for me, but I'm hoping this does well. I think the project has very good geological potential. I mean, there's mineralization over a strike length of like 6 kilometers or something. Could do well in, you know, in a silver bull market, especially if the share structure is as tight as it looks. I have no idea when I might be taking profits, etc., because I already have, I mean, a position in from lower levels, so it's already, I mean, become, it's not big, but still, you know, decent size, for example, and has obviously been going up with the share price. I mean, might be one worth taking a look at if you can, you know, stomach Mexico. I think, yeah, I mean, a lot of people obviously follow Eric Sprott, so it's nice to see that, you know, he's backing the, you know, kind of First Nordic guys, but in a silver story. Cabral Gold, I think, is kind of interesting. I mean, they have 3, because this is one where I just got reminders like, well, you know, I haven't thought about Cabral in a while. And especially lately, since Rackla has been stealing all my time and focus. But I think they have 3 rigs drilling, and they cashed up not too long ago. Plus, they're expecting I think it's the PFS study or even feasibility study expected in the not too distant future. So I mean, there should be quite a bit of assay results coming out from, I'm pretty sure it's a 3 rig drill campaign that's ongoing. So economic study and drilling, and then after economic study, I guess they go into financing to get the saprolite, which they're doing the advanced economic study on, to get that into production to become a gold producer. And that shouldn't, I mean, we're not talking, I don't think, you know, years from that happening. So it's a, you know, a stock with relatively near-term production potential, plus a lot of exploration news that should start to come out in the not too distant future. And obviously we can see that, you know, it's gone cold a bit, but that's why I thought I would at least highlight it. It's like, this is, in my opinion, how you should kind of, you know, think, in the sense where, okay, excitement has gone down, because we can see that in the share price, for example, even though, I mean, we don't know if it's excitement going down or is, you know, somebody is sold for, you know, they need a house or whatever it might be. But the price itself, if you just look at the company going down in price, I mean, it's kind of by default is suggesting that you know, sentiment is cooler. But then if, okay, when you think about it, well, okay, now it's been, let's say, relatively boring and not much excitement is built in, but we're going into a potential high excitement period because there's a bunch of drill results that's going to start coming out, plus an economic study. Yeah, I mean, in my, I mean, that's easy to say, but like, I would think this is probably better risk reward than up here, for example. Lower expectations, less time to, let's say, the more exciting period. Altamira as well. I think these both are, ironically, I was going to say, in Brazil. This is also, Altamira is pretty much an intact story as well. Had a, yeah, it's basically done what I think the average junior has done since the top in 2021. Gone down something along these lines. They have more targets than they ever had. Had their pretty low money, so the market knew they would need to raise, and the share performance hasn't been good at all, despite the fact that they have 700,000 ounces in the ground. That looks to be expandable quite easily, given some trench results, etc. They have the Maria Bonita target with a, they put out a resource on that one as well, actually, so they have more than 700,000 ounces. And they have a bunch of porphyry / reduced intrusion gold targets around the main project and Maria Bonita. Plus they have Apiacas, and they have the Santa Elena porphyry target. So they have a crap ton of targets. They have gold in the ground. Share price has not been exciting. I think that's also because, you know, management hasn't been wanting to raise because they think it's so cheap. But then again, if the market knows you'll have a financing, I mean, it's problematic if you try to get the share price up, in the sense you need to have more new buying to overtake even the bulls that like the story and just want to get into a cheap financing, and, you know, hoping to get warrants, for example, as they got in this last financing. So again, kind of similar in my opinion to Valkea's situation and First Nordic situation, where it's nothing has changed for the projects. It's the people playing around an upcoming financing. Well, financing happened, and they closed $5.28 million private placement with Aura, the mining company. I think they have, like, what is it, 2 billion market cap right now. Aura Minerals, 2.5 billion. They're a mining company. They're not a speculative institution. They're a mining company. They invest in stuff they think can become mines, and also Crescat. So pretty tight placement. If they took down 77.6% of the offering, which is great, meaning there's not too many, I would say, loose hands to be, let's say, flipping for a warrant. So this is one also which I think is one of the most obvious sleeping stories out there. Sleeper stories out there. share price left a lot of people disappointed, despondent, apathic, is that the word? You know what I mean. But the projects themselves are actually exciting, it's just that no work has been done on them. And then you have, people front-running trying to front-run a placement which just weighs on the stock. So of course, a share price that goes like this reduces excitement. No news really from drilling reduces excitement. But now they have, I don't know, let's say $6 million. And I guess they can do quite a bit of testing, because I think most targets are at or near surface. And there's some low-hanging fruit. This one I think is worth taking a look at, because I don't think 30 million CAD is really reflecting the intrinsic value of their projects, at least, and the intrinsic potential of those projects. And if you want, I'm not going to say for sure, slam dunk margin of safety, but when you have Aura Minerals, a mining company which is very experienced in Brazil, if they are investing in it, they see potential for a mine. So that's pretty good vote of confidence. It's not some random hedge fund or something like that who's wants to flip think they can speculate and do the greater fool thing. No, I think Aura Minerals is one of the natural buyers of Altamira. And lastly, just end with selling low early can be very costly. So this is NGX Minerals, which I owned up to 5-6 years ago. These are my sells. This is where the stock is trading at. I don't know what level this was. That's probably 40 cents maybe. So I obviously have missed out on a, 20 bagger, something like that. But you can note again, it's like, what would I sell if I knew this was going to happen? Of course not. And then you can also again, it's like 10 baggers are typically not that exciting. The excitement happens in a short time frame. Consolidates, goes up a bit, consolidates, goes up a bit. This was actually, this was probably, I don't remember what happened here, but let's say, on the back of a discovery or something, where it's like, but it took some time for the market to, let's say, price in, and then it topped, maybe it got a bit overheated, who knows. Then it consolidated for, what is this, like, let's say a year or something, before new all-time highs. So people were miserable for a year. And then fast forward, they would be up 150% from this top. But that also then circles back to this idea. If you are bearish NGX, how costly is it that I sold this? How costly is it if I bought something that went down 50%? It's obviously way more costly in hindsight that I sold a future 20 bagger than if I bought something that went down 50% or 60%. These are supposed to pay for all the losers. If you have one of these, you can afford many similar sized positions that get cut in half. Even many similar sized positions that go down 100%. But you will not get this to pay for all that, or any story, if you can't let it also play out. So if you sell every high risk high reward case after it's up 50%, plus 50% is not going to cut it when you're supposed to. You can't have a portfolio like this where it's like, high risk high reward portfolio. One goes down 50%, one goes down 50%, one goes down 50%, one is up 50%. Same hit rate, but the winner is not paying for the losers. And in that case, you have the same accuracy, which is low, 25%, but the strategy isn't working out because the reward side of the high risk high reward cases is not paying for the high risk side of the other high risk high reward cases. And then this guy would be equally right in terms of frequency, 75% quote correct, but in that case this person would actually make money more than the high risk high reward bull because he cut every winner after it was up 50%. Yeah, anyway, as always, consider me biased. I own shares of all companies mentioned. Some are banner sponsors as well. Twice biased in that case. This is not buy or sell recommendation. And please, if any one of these work out, don't come back and say I said they were guaranteed to work out. And if you do that, please remember the ones that worked out. Anyway, yeah, you know, keep eye on the price, long-term portfolio returns, sensible strategy. A strategy is only good if you can keep doing it, replicate it. If you don't have a strategy, you might make a lot of money one year, but you're probably going to lose over the long run because you don't simply have anything that makes sense over the long run. But anybody can get lucky and unlucky in any given year, etc. Anyway, thanks for listening. Not investing advice.